This is why I see a lot of like Mercy players, for example, and not to pick on anyone, but you guys are really the big culprits of this, is do nothing or have no impact on the team offensively besides damage boost, which again is reliant on your team doing well to win, and also you not getting countered. And then complain that you're not ranking up. Why am I not ranking up? Why am I not? Well, it's because you're not putting the agency in your own hands. Hey everyone, Lars here. Been a little while since the last time I made a video, and wanted to branch out into more Overwatch-based content. So from this point forward, I'm probably going to be focusing on that kind of stuff. I just wanted to make a new video regarding the whole support thing in Overwatch 2, and how I think generally supports don't really know when to swap, if to swap, and how to swap. And oftentimes you'll see that when you're playing in a match, especially as tanky DPS, you'll feel this a lot. And in ranked, in the lower to mid elos, I'd say. With some exceptions, I'm not going to label all supports and generalize here. But there is oftentimes points in a match, or even if it's the whole match, oftentimes it can be the whole match, where both support players don't really know the synergies with both heroes as well as in conjunction with their team. So just wanted to make a video to clarify. So I have a MS Paint here, and basically I want to go over the main support flex support designation, which if you're a newer support player, you probably don't know this, but if you're someone who like scrims often or keeps up with competitive meta adjustments, changes, whatnot, plays like ranked a lot, is high elo, then you definitely know this. So this won't come as much of a surprise to you. But here I've got two images of main support, flex support designation from a YouTube channel called Crow. Would highly recommend. It's like a Korean outsourcing videos with like English translation from like Korean like pros and stuff. Really, really good channel. Very insightful. Couldn't recommend more. But they made an excellent video on this. But I just wanted to touch base with people so that they would understand on a more general level why it's so important to have these designations and why it's important to follow them. Because there are a lot of different support combinations that just either don't make sense, or support players aren't really thinking about the hero swaps, because typically I think the common sentiment is that it doesn't matter as much as like DPS or tank. So for example, a very common low elo, mid elo sentiment is like, you can't play monkey into a Reaper or Bastion, right? Like, it's going to be really unfun, but I'd say it's still possible. In the same sense as like, even support players who aren't particularly like inclined know that, for example, Mercy plus Lucio isn't a fantastic healing comp because there isn't much healing to go around. I mean, that's what they think. And that is true, but it's a lot more nuanced than that. And I'm going to explain the differences, as well as like what makes a good support comp, what makes a bad support comp. So the designations here on the left, we have main supports, which are Lucio, Mercy, Brig. And this video was made in like season 3 or something, I don't remember. But it was before Lifeweaver came out. So this is like these 3 supports plus Lifeweaver. And then flex support is Zen, Kiri, Moira. Moira's a little bit arguable, but you know, whatever. It could go either way. Bap, Ana, and then plus Alari, because obviously this video is really old. So why do we make these designations and why do they matter? Well, main support, Lucio, Mercy, Brig. These heroes don't really have a lot of offensive utility. However, they make up for it with a strong like frontline presence in the case of Brig, or like very easy healing, area of effect healing. Whereas the flex supports have to aim with their heals. Also, another very important characteristic is that these heroes don't have much offensive utility like whatsoever, whereas these ones do. So Ana has nade, which you throw it, chuck it, and then you have an anti-healing, and that's really strong. Denying healing is like, she's the only hero in this category besides Queen and the tank role, obviously, but like that is able to do that and is able to do it consistently too, because Junker Queen's ult is on, well, it's an ult, right? But Ana is a basic ability, so you're able to effectively, if you are good enough with cycling your cooldowns, be able to have a rotation of like 12 seconds nade, 12 seconds nade, and then the enemy team can't heal for a couple seconds, and that's just extreme value. Bap has a window, which is again offensive ability. And he also has a hit scan weapon, hit scan projectiles, which for those of you who don't know is instant damage. So if you click someone, the damage is instantly applied. So it's not a projectile with travel time. Think your Genjis, your Hanzos. And then like Zen, obviously with the Discord Orb, and Kiri with the Kunai. They all have some kind of damage DPS based utility while also being able to heal. And you really, really value this in a support comp. So one of the things that you really don't want to do is double stack main support. See, double stack flex support is actually pretty good, and I'll get into that a little bit later. And in the case of some heroes like Zen, it's almost necessary. But generally, as a rule of thumb, it doesn't apply to main supports. And the primary reason why is not only because it can make healing hard sometimes, since besides Lucio, these are rather single target. So like, yes, you don't have to aim for your heals, but Mercy can only beam to one person. Brig without her Inspire passive is only packing people individually. And then Lucio, while area of effect, if you're outside of that range, say you're a flanker like Tracer or Genji and you're not playing with your team, well, you're not getting the healing. And I know the healing passive might complicate this, and things are subject to change in Season 9, I know, with really game-breaking changes, to be honest. But generally, as a rule of thumb, avoid stacking main support combos like Lucio Mercy, Lucio Brig, Mercy Brig, because you're really lacking on offensive utility, I think is a very big reason. You'll notice that when you play tank or DPS, and this happens very often in like the mid elos plat diamond, where you get like a Mercy Lifeweaver on your team, for example, and then throughout the game you're like killing stuff, you're killing stuff, and then you don't kill stuff because they go like a counter comp of like something stupid like a Moira Mercy or like a Moira Lifeweaver, and nothing dies, or maybe like a BAP. And because there's no nades in the front line to really like dissuade people from just heal botting, they're able to do that, and then you're unable to finish off secure kills because your supports just aren't doing that offensive utility that you really, really value. And then you're reliant on individual heroics. Say you're like Cassidy hits a headshot, or you land like a Tracer 1 clip to kill targets because they're just healing through it. Now that's part of a greater issue of healing creep in the game, but see, Ana and heroes like her, or like Zen, for example, are able to kind of control that, and abilities like Discord and Nade are a necessary evil in this case. So why do we want to know that? Well, when you're playing in solo queue and you recognize a situation where, hey, we're Mercy Lifeweaver, well, say you main Mercy, you need to realize that, hey, like, even though I'm doing well individually, my hero choice doesn't really help the team at the moment in terms of like, you have to think bigger picture. So yes, you might get a bunch of reses. Yes, you might be playing well in terms of positioning, movement, GA movement, whatever, right? But if your front line is getting out CD'd and out resourced and they can't kill anything, then you need to be a little bit more selfish as a support and play one of these flex support options. And the reason why I made this video is mainly because a lot of this main support stacking happens because they don't realize that like, hey, I need to do damage. There's this really like, there's this support mentality that healing people matters more than damaging as support. when I would say it's more 50-50 or nuanced. In some cases and for some heroes, like obviously a Life Weaver isn't going to be having a DPS centric playstyle, but like BAP has a very offensive playstyle. And you would expect BAP even to have either 50-50 healing damage or sometimes even more damage than he does healing in some cases, which is rare, but just having the ability to have high output of healing while also be able to do damage and help your frontline in terms of like, well, get kills and frag out is really important. If you just double stack main support, then you're kind of just putting the game in the hands of your team. You kind of just want to like sit back, heal, don't take many risks, or don't like damage. And that's one thing that I agree with Awkward. If any of you guys have seen Awkward's content, is you to climb. And granted, this doesn't apply in like higher reloads and stuff, where positioning is more important and healing and uptime and whatnot. But just do as much damage as you can. And I'd say generally for climbing, you want to be gravitating more towards these heroes. These heroes don't provide as much as an individual as they do to a team than these heroes. Because like these heroes can play a team-based like healing approach playstyle while also be able to frag out. Like Kiri can hit headshots and mark flankers really well. Zen can discord a tank and blow them up. BAP has a defensive cooldown in Immortality Field, but he also has self-sustain in his left shift, which heals like 100 instant. And then a really strong M1, a high healing output M2. Like BAP, in terms of like heroes, is the best of both worlds because he has a high healing output for support Brain Andes, but also a really strong M1 for the more damage-centric support players. So I think it's also important to find your playstyle. If you tend to be a more in the backline defensive player, then sure, gravitate towards these heroes. Say you main Mercy. Great. You have one of the 3 main supports down. And if you play like a break secondary, great. Now you have 2 out of the 3. So if you have like an Ashe on your team, then you might want to play the Mercy. But if you are playing against the Monkey and you're getting Dovin a lot, then you swap the Brig. You don't just play the Brig because you want to play the Brig. You don't play the Mercy because you want to play the Mercy. Always have a rationale. And more importantly, or just as importantly, whatever, you want to be able to flex support if possible. So generally in like Scrib meta or in like higher levels of play, people like kind of just like one trick the main support or one trick the flex support and they stay within the heroes of their category. But for ranked, obviously there's going to be a lot of times where you will find that you are playing with a random support player and they are unable to flex, or like you get a Moira player and then you're playing like a Brawl comp with a Ryan Rush with a Bastion Sim. And then he says that, oh, I can't play Lucio because I don't know how to play Lucio. Well, if you're like a Kiri player, well, now you've got to play Lucio, right? So be able to be flexible in terms of like mix and matching between these two roles. And I'd say you'd be set up for success. So to give you a hypothetical scenario, let's say we are Mercy Life Weaver, which is the example that I gave earlier. You might want to be Ana, because what does Life Weaver not do? So he has Grasp to bring people back and like be able to allow your dive tanks to take more committal engagements, or your DPS, whatever. And then he has Pedal to keep himself up or provide his team with like LOS, which is, I mean, most people don't use it for that. Most people use it for the survivability aspect, but nonetheless. And then he has the tree, which is high healing. But the one thing that he doesn't have is like virtually no offensive utility, right? So if you go something like, say, a Brig, you're also missing out on that offensive utility. So you want to swap to something like an Ana, where your team will really value your presence with nade. Or maybe even a BAP if you have a more pokey style. So I'd say like to develop sort of a rationale for what heroes in the flex support. And again, this video is mainly targeted to main supports, but it goes both ways. Is a good general rule of thumb for like plat diamond players or like even masters players who don't really understand this is go BAP if your team has like a hit scan or poke, and they could really get value from your ultimate, the window, or you play BAP because you feel like you could just frag out and do damage on your own and like great, whatever, like self-sufficient playstyle, right? Or maybe you have like a Zen BAP full poke backline and you want to pelt as much damage into like a pharmacy as possible. So say your DPS are just kind of like lacking. Maybe they're like on flankers or something, or like flanker plus Hanzo, and then they're not doing a good enough job at like marking the Pharah. Well, now you have a hit scan weapon and plus like a Zen on your team. You could blow her up pretty easily, right? And then the Ana is to the example that I just gave. Say your team doesn't have offensive presence. I don't remember how to spell presence. I'm very academically inclined. You would value the Ana more. And also Nano. Or if your team is playing Dive. So your Monkey, what you could do is, if you notice that the enemy team are all stacking and they're like heal botting and like it's like maybe like an Ashe backline, Zen, and they're all sitting in one spot. So like imagine this is like a Blizzard World high ground on the first point, and everyone is standing one here, one here, one here. Well, from a safe position, you chuck a nade, and then your Winston on an angle jumps in and then capitalizes on that offensive opportunity, and then you get CDs out, or you get a kill, or you get a ton of pressure, or your DPS follow up and then you kill them, or you get ult charge and you just soft dive. Whatever it is, whatever it may be. As support, just generally, you want to be finding these kill opportunities as much as possible, if possible. Instead of just playing this like dormant, like heal first, worry about everything else later playstyle, which is too reliant on your team to succeed. This is why I see a lot of like Mercy players, for example, and not to pick on anyone, but you guys are really the big culprits of this, is do nothing or have no impact on the team offensively besides damage boost, which again is reliant on your team doing well to win, and also you not getting countered. And then complain that you're not ranking up. Why am I not ranking up? Why am I not? Well, it's because you're not putting the agency in your own hands. And this is not to say that Mercy doesn't have her place. She absolutely does. See, to the BAP example, if you get hit scan or poke, she can do pretty well in those scenarios too. You sit behind a cover and then you watch as your Widowmaker or Ashe duo, your Valorant E-Dater carries you. Great. And then you can res it if they take a too risky flank or too risky of a peek and then die. Great, easy res, right? And she has her plays, but you need to know when to swap outside of those scenarios. So if you're a one trick, click off this video. You probably already did 5 to 10 minutes ago, but generally don't be a one trick. And if you are, at the very least, you could encourage your team. Say you're like a DPS one trick, like you're a Genji one trick, whatever. You could encourage them to, instead of a Mercy Lifeweaver duo, play one of these heroes and see. If there's no dice and they get mad at you, whatever, just mute all and then leave the voice chat and go next, right? This is for people who are interested in learning and getting better, not people who one trick and then complain that their team is the issue. Because frankly, in any competitive game, if you are hard stuck, you are most likely the issue, with very limited exceptions. But like 99% of the time, if you can't climb, it's you. But that's not the point of this video. That's definitely another video that I'll make in the future. But let's clean this up a little bit here. Forgive me, I do not do this often. Okay. So yeah, that's about it. In terms of a summary, main support, heroes that have AoE healing generally, and like auto aim healing, and then the flex support are your more offensively oriented damage dealer supports that have to aim their shots, with some exceptions, mainly Zen and Moira, and then Kyrie's is like kind of auto aim, not really, kind of weird, but again, offensive utility is probably a better way to differentiate the two. And when you notice that you are lacking in that department, you need to swap to this category. Absolutely need to swap to this category. And that's about it. Thank you.